with that, I feel like it's so important to know your value system and stick to it. But if you don't, which half of us don't, you know, we end up screwing up, we end up falling short, we end up crossing the line, we end up saying, you know, yes to the Lord and then no to him the next day. And it's this war. But ultimately you look up at the end and you realize like, wow, even when I totally screwed it up and messed up in every single way and went the opposite way of the Lord that the Lord told me to go, he ends up redeeming it all and using it for his glory. And so you can do it all wrong. Right. You can go your own way. You can choose to do whatever you want to do. And because he's so freaking amazing, he will literally take your story and somehow make it holy and give you a gift that you didn't even realize that you were worthy of, because you always thought you were worthy of this. And he's like, no, actually, this is what I wanted to give you the whole time. And I'm still going to give it to you, even though you messed it up.
Hello. Welcome back to the Gen Free podcast. I need a little round of applause because we do that. Yeah, of course. And I forgot to say the intro again. Every episode. This is a student-led podcast focused on discovering God's freedom in our everyday lives.
Welcome to the Gen Free podcast. This is me, Sawyer Robertson.
Every
yes, I do. Every episode. So I've done this every time.
Since the day one.
Day one.
Day one. Yeah. Yeah. So let's just introduce ourselves. Of course, I'm your host, Ayana Cruz, and then
I already introduced myself.
Oh yeah, you did say Sawyer Robertson already. We're doing this out of order today.
It's fine.
I don't appreciate it.
But we've got great
guests. Off the noodles. It's all.
Oh.
Yeah, you threw me off. The
noodles. We're all thinking about noodles now.
Yeah, because we interrupted your lunch. So sorry.
I wish I had my noodles. Yeah. Could you imagine I have my noodles right here?
No one has any context of what we're talking about.
You just say noodles.
I just have noodles right here.
If you can put that into the video, just a little like fake bowl of noodles steaming.
A little description, be like explaining the noodle.
Right.
A whole write up. Yeah.
But can y'all introduce ourselves because y'all are our guests today?
Yes, I'm Bethany Kuenzli.
And I'm Caleb Bethany
Kuenzli. Yay! The Kuenzlis. And just real quick, explain what are we here to talk about? Just start off like that. What are we here to talk about? Just say the topic.
Well, I believe we're talking about relationships.
Yay!
And dating and all of the things.
The jazz.
All the
jazz. All right. Well, before we go into that, I do have a little icebreaker question. You know,
awesome. Loosen
it up. Get rid of all the tenseness. Yeah, exactly. Like shag it all off. So, Jess, what did you guys do for Valentine's, everybody? Oh my goodness, I'm scared.
What did you guys do for Valentine's? Okay. No, I'm just kidding. We exchanged a few gifts and then ate Chinese food and played card games.
Nice.
Oh, okay, that's nice.
It's a tradition. Chinese.
Every Valentine's?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I know. Keep it simple.
I mean, yeah, it's always nice.
Restaurants.
How about your kids?
You know, our kids are wonderful because they have a bedtime.
Right.
And so we're at that stage where we can just say good night at 7:30 and still be able to hang out with just us two.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
so
imagine having a bedtime.
Right.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you're one of those, aren't you?
Yep. I was up until 2:00 last night.
Oh my gosh.
I just function. I don't really need sleep. I could just go.
Honestly, school nowadays kind of sets you up.
Right.
Yeah. Like that, so
plus I have late arrival and early release, so I only have 3 periods during the day.
So you get to nap afterward.
Yep. And then go to the gym. And then probably come here.
Okay.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Do you drink coffee?
No.
I didn't either. I used to live that life. I can't do it anymore.
Yeah. I do not like coffee.
No.
I feel like you have more energy when you don't drink coffee.
Natural, yeah.
I don't know. I had to jump on the coffee train. So
yeah.
You never know. So what did you do for Valentine's Day, though?
I think I did a drawing in my room and then probably binge watched a show, and that was it.
That's it. I mean, that's
well, besides school. So
Noodles?
Noodles.
You had noodles?
I probably did. I'd be willing to bet I have it like 2-3 times out of a week.
Oh my goodness.
Living the dream.
Yeah. Noodles and chicken fingers.
You looking like that frat boy life without living that frat
Oh,
boy
heck
life.
yeah, man.
He is 2 o'clock, graphic design,
Oh
you
my
know,
goodness.
barely any classes, noodles,
No, for real.
Absolutely.
living the
You fit the
dream.
vibe. You really fit the vibe. But yeah.
What did you do?
I keep laughing. Valentine's Day was interesting. So I kind of just laid in bed. I went to work, then I got home and laid in bed. And that's pretty much it. It was just funny because my mind was like racing. So I kind of just stared at the ceiling. I did sculpt a cool, weird project I'm doing with like a heart-shaped box. Wow. And then you open it and it's like this really disgusting face. It's like, and it's like, that's it. That's really it. And it has arms. It's going to hang up in my room.
Happy Valentine's Day. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it was a rough one.
It wasn't really rough. I've never really liked a lot of people. So it's just kind of like, it's another day.
Yeah.
So that's my school of thought. Bethany probably has a much more romantic view of Valentine's Day. So sometimes Chinese food is the second option that like we were probably going to do something, but then maybe we came into disagreement about something.
Number one is Chick-fil-A.
Which never happens in relationships. But yeah, usually go to Chick-fil-A and get something heart-shaped.
Yeah.
But Chinese food is usually
I
a
did
rough
do
day.
that. Me and my sister got one of the packs of like 20 chicken minis in the heart
Yes.
shape. Yeah.
Those are incredible.
They are great.
It was
I don't know how they do
expensive.
that.
It was expensive though. I was like, I was gonna buy it. Then I looked at the price because
Well, I
it was
mean,
cheap, and I was like,
we only
no.
do
Like, I'm good.
because we like split it between the family since my dad works at home now too. So it was me, both my sisters, and my dad. in the
Honestly,
home.
I would have eaten it by myself.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I probably could have done that as well, but I didn't because they would all been mad.
Right.
considerate.
Good call. Good call.
So considerate.
All right. So as we announced, our topic today is relationships,
Nice.
and relationships. Yay, yummy, delicious.
Right.
Specifically for y'all digging into dating and marriage. So I must ask you before we get into this, just in summary, how did y'all come to be? It's basically like a mini testimony. Very
If we have
mini.
enough time. No, I'm
Hey,
just
I
kidding.
mean, hey, we're only 5 minutes in.
Yeah, that's
so-
right. We got all the
How
time in
did
the
you
world.
meet Jason Momoa?
Oh my goodness. Oh, I guess I could see that.
Please don't.
Nah, dude.
He gets that all the time.
Dude, I love it. I
Honestly,
think
if he
it's
was tatted up, we'd probably get stopped in the airport.
People in church basically think I'm like the love child between Brandon Lake and Jason Momoa, and
think that's awesome.
I don't appreciate either of those compliments. So
Whatever.
You don't like the Jason Momoa. Come on.
You gotta enjoy that one.
and Aquaman was pretty bad. So,
Dude, I don't like that movie either.
Yeah, it's that.
But-
yeah.
Yeah, so that's my only frame of reference
Yeah.
for him. I haven't seen anything else he's been in.
He's
So.
gotta redeem
Right.
himself.
And besides that, like commercial where he like weirdly takes off the things, and he's
Yeah.
like super
Oh, yeah.
skinny.
That
Those
was
are
hilarious. That was funny.
Yeah, so how we
Anyway.
met.
Back then, I didn't have hair,
Oh, wow.
It's true.
so shaved head, but not like all the way skin shaved, but just short hair.
But I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. Caleb's from Virginia Beach, Virginia. And I was visiting my aunt who lives in Virginia Beach. And she was like, oh my gosh, I know the perfect guy for you if you weren't dating someone at the time.
Let's get
goodness.
spicy.
She's like, he goes to Liberty University, he goes for youth ministry, and he leads worship. And I was like, that's the one. Because in 8th grade, I literally, those, people who say, write down your list of characteristics in marriage that you're looking for.
Yeah.
I done that, and I was like, I want to go to Liberty University, get my MRS degree,
Which means get married. That's
Mrs.
for anybody that missed the
Oh, my goodness.
nuance
It flew
there.
over my head.
The Mrs. degree, and marry a youth pastor. And if he's a musician, that'd be a plus. So we could lead worship together.
I checked
That's what I
them
said.
all. Ping, 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 ping.
That is
so-
very specific.
Very
Oddly specific.
Very.
Dang.
Yeah, I knew what I wanted. So I literally planned to go to Liberty University, but didn't because I was in a relationship at the time and followed him to the school that he went to instead.
And I didn't even want to go to Liberty and then ended up there.
Right. And so anyways, she tells me about him. I look at his Facebook. I see, well, I'm like, wow, he looks amazing. And then
My goodness.
I saw that we had tons of mutual friends. And turns out, so I messaged him and was like, hey, my aunt and uncle are obsessed with you. Like, I see that we have tons of mutual friends. And I was like, we should, I don't know what I said. So I'm like, we should hang out and play the Who do you know that I know?
Meanwhile, the subtext is, hey, baby, you want to get together and you know, talk a little and see if we like each other. But
That's how you read it.
All hidden in the Facebook message world.
That's how you saw it.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's how I read it. Hey, baby.
Hey, baby, you want to go make noodles?
Oh my god. Ramen. Yeah.
Not to be confused with Velveeta, right?
Oh, Velveeta's so nasty. Don't get
So
me
nasty.
There was a whole pre-conversation. I'm so sorry for anybody listening.
Yeah, there's no context.
So, anyways, we end up meeting, and it turns out he led worship at my church camp.
Loosely, I was a part of the worship team that year.
You were and it was the year I was not there. And I was like, oh my gosh. So all my friends met him, but I did not.
Or like
so,
youth pastor, friends, like all the different people that she had grown up with.
which is wild, crazy.
Yeah.
So then I went to his church, and he was preaching that night and leading worship, actually. And he was preaching on love, which was pretty ironic.
Yeah.
And then we went out to eat afterwards, and
Worst meal ever.
No.
Yeah.
What?
Well, because she was dating somebody, which I knew.
Oh, yeah. Mm.
So my backstory for a few seconds, I had gotten cheated on by an ex-girlfriend and was the reason I wasn't dating anybody at the time when we met.
Yeah.
So now I'm sitting at this meal and I'm like, well, it'd be cool to hang out. She leads worship.
it was with my aunt and uncle, by
I was
the
with
way.
your aunt and uncle, but
That makes it somewhat better.
yeah, it makes it,
Yeah.
it makes it a little less awkward, but her aunt's also trying to force us to connect. Her uncle is trying to get us to not.
Oh.
And so he and I are just like hitting like movie quotes back and forth
Yeah.
over and over again. And she's like, well, this is a waste of time. And I'm like, don't look at her. She's really cute, but she's dating somebody. Don't be that guy.
Aw.
And so, yeah, it was just like the most awkward meal ever. And then at the end of it, I was getting ready to go like ask her if she wanted to go hang out, just like the two of us, just so we could talk. And like right when I go up to talk to her, her aunt just gives me the stink eye and it's just like, you know, and just like, I was like,
Ask her.
hey, like you better ask her. Here's your chance. But I interpreted it as back off. So I was like, oh, like,
It's just like
My
the rock
goodness.
eyebrow.
yeah. She just gave me the eyebrow, and I was like, oh. So then I tried to do it again, and she looked at me again, and I was like, okay, fine, I won't say anything. But eventually, I finally texted Bethany. I was like, hey, you want to like go hang out and just be able to talk? And she was like, yeah. So that was kind of where it all began.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Complicated.
Super complicated. And it was tough. And because I didn't want to cross that line, because I know what it's like to be on the other side of that conversation, I was like, oh, I really don't want to. So the only reason I did text her, I was like, all right, I just sat in my car. They left the restaurant. And I was like, all right, God, what do I do? And he was like, I mean, you can hang out. There's nothing wrong with that. And I was just like,
Cool.
okay, cool. And he was like, and it was one of those things like, hey, just like, it just felt like it was probably going to be wrong if I'd let her go without at least like trying to have a conversation. So the first like hour we hung out was just talking about like God, talking about worship, talking, like she was just getting into like the spirit filled life. So she was asking questions about like speaking in tongues and prophecy and healing and all that stuff, which growing up in a Baptist school, they didn't talk about. I grew up charismatic, but then ended up going to Liberty. So that's kind of why I didn't want to go. But so that was our first hour. And then after that, I was like, so you're dating somebody and we're hanging out. Why?
Oh my goodness.
And that was like the next like 3 or 4 hours of us just kind of talking through relationships. And
Wow.
yeah, so.
Yeah. By the end of the night, he was like, so when you break up with your boyfriend, marry me.
What? You said
Did you
that?
really say that?
He said that.
That's only God, because that's risky.
Super risky.
I said,
Super
so
risky.
many questions.
Which isn't a no. That's not a no.
And then you called your best buddy. What'd you tell him?
I was like, I think I just met my wife.
Dude, you've got to be a good gambler. Like that is crazy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It sounds
I
like
bet the
it sounds
house.
like a romance comedy. That's nuts.
It probably is.
No, it's crazy.
No, I think it's awesome.
Crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, so like the
Quite
next
literally.
day we're talking, and then she ends up breaking up with her boyfriend like the next day.
Oh my.
Oh,
So that was at least like a good like for me that was like, oh cool, like this wasn't just like some weird evening where I professed my love to some random chick and then the next day it's nothing. Okay, cool, that's great. But then they had been dating for so long, and so you know, most of the time it takes you as long as you were dating or longer to kind of get over the person. So I was like, hey, you probably need some time. She's like, hey, I need time. I was like, cool. So I'm thinking like, hey, this is probably going to be like a long, like trying to figure this thing out. She needs to heal. So I was like, how much time do you need? I'm thinking like, she's going to take like a year, you know, like we're just going to be friends. We'll talk every once in a while and just slow play it. So I asked her, how long do you need? And she says,
I was like, a week.
I was like, dang, she was over that boy. All right, got it. So
I just needed a week to pray and fast and ask the Lord, like, you know, what do I need to do here? Like, and so, yeah, that's what I did. I just stopped talking to each of them and was just like pressing into the Lord of like, what do you want for my future, Lord? And like, where am I going and where do you want me? And, yeah, I just felt like the Lord was, showing me that picture of the Red Sea and just like asking me to run and, just swallowing all of my past up behind me. And, yeah, so I felt like the Lord said, you know, even if things don't work out with Caleb, you're not to go back in that relationship.
Wow.
So I was like, okay.
Yep. So we kept going forward, but the only, I will tell you, it's probably not the best strategy just to propose the first night you hang out with a girl or like, or even with like vice versa with a guy. Go ahead.
Are you serious?
I don't think it was, well, it worked. I will tell you that. But the only reason that I did is because as we talked, so I asked her, hey, why are you dating
She's
somebody?
thinking you
we're hanging
proposed
out?
to me. You didn't.
Well, I didn't really propose.
Okay,
but like,
no, because
but,
I was like, we just missed. Did I miss it?
no. Sorry.
You were like, wait, there was a ring?
I had a ring.
Could you imagine?
Will you
if
marry
on
me?
on the first night?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that'd be a
will
red
you
flag.
Actually, I did know a guy. They were married for 50 years. They're still together. First night that they met, he proposed and they got married. So just saying, it has worked. Anyway, don't fake propose the
my.
first night like I did. It worked for us.
Like a ring pop.
Yeah. Just,
Right.
yeah. Would you like this candy? But the only reason that I even like thought to even ask that question. So we talked about God for an hour. We talked about her current relationship for a little bit. But then I just asked her, so what is it that you're looking for? And the things that she was looking for in ministry and music and life just so lined up with what I was already feeling. And like, I wasn't in half of it, but I wanted to do music. I wanted to lead worship. I wanted to do all these things. And so all of a sudden it's like, she just kind of came up alongside where I was. And so a friend of mine in college, he was from Zimbabwe. His name was Donnie. Years and years beforehand was like, dude, like you keep chasing girls, you need to chase after God. And one day God will bring someone beside you that'll be chasing after him, take her hand and run after God together. And I was like, okay. And then that was that night where I was like, she's kind of going after the same thing. I'm just going to keep chasing God on this one, but let me just see if she would grab my hand. And so I reached my hand out and she said yes. And I was like, sweet. So we dated for 5 months. We'll have to come back and tell you the engagement story because that's a big, long, beautiful story. But got engaged 5 months later. 3 months after that, we got married. And that was almost 12 years ago.
Oh, almost 12 years. That's been a while. Yeah. Oh.
I was 6.
You guys wait, are we? You're 18, right?
Yeah, we're both
I
18.
was 6. Wow. Man.
You guys were still eating chicken nuggets and noodles.
I still eat
I
chicken.
am.
Still are.
So am I. Especially now that we have kids. Now that's all I eat.
It's back.
So it is
Dino
back.
Nuggies.
Dude, those are the best for some reason.
I couldn't tell you why.
I don't know why.
It's the shape. That's
It is. Well, you
it.
bite off the head and you feel victorious. Like you're just like, I killed a
conquered.
dino.
Yeah.
I am victorious. Nobody can take this from me.
Right.
For real. So I know you guys mentioned like you had like kind of a list set up of like, oh, what I wanted. Did you have a list? Because I know our youth group made us do a list. So I'm just asking.
I think I had one in my mind. When I was a little kid, I had like what color hair, eye color, all that stuff. All that kind of goes out the window at some point. Sometimes like your preference can help you sift through people, but sometimes you're also avoiding people that you might be able to connect with.
Got it.
Just based on hair color, just based on eye color, based on height. And so a lot of it, as I got older, became more about like, what are you feeling called to? What's God calling you to? And like personality. And I don't think that any relationship is going to create perfection. It's just like, will we be going after similar things? And can we challenge each other? Can we work through things together? And those are the things that I just started to look for.
Got it. And obviously you had a list that, and I mean, he hit all the points. I don't even have to go there. Do you think it's important to kind of have like a thought of what you want in a relation in the back of your mind? Or do you think it's like, and the better way to, I'm trying to think of a way to put it. Like you guys kind of had ideas of what to do, and then it, like for you, it lined up. Do you think it always should work that way? That people should have like an idea of what they are going for?
I think everyone does. Even if you make a list or you don't, everybody has this, deep down in their heart, what they're longing for and what they're looking for. And everyone knows like when they find it. And that's what creates the spark of when you meet someone that it just can't be explained. You're just like, whoa, like my heart is out here for you, And so I think when you create a list, I don't necessarily recommend it. I feel like if the list is going to be something, it needs to be like top, he or she loves the Lord, like, and has a relationship with him.
That's a good one.
It needs to be like concrete things, because I feel like those are the things we kind of settle on. So if you're going to make a list, it has to be the necessities, and then everything else can be filtered through that, because at the end of the day, looks fade. And so if you're going after a certain, type, that all is going to disappear in a matter of years. So you better love the heart of a person and the value system and that he loves the Lord, because then everything can change and shift, but you're still sticking to the foundation,
Yeah.
So then how would you say your like relationship with God evolved? Because being alone and having a relationship with God, from what I've noticed from like couples, is a lot different than being even dating and then being married and having a relationship with God. So like, could you guys like guide us through like kind of how it changed? Because that in that small amount of time, I bet there was a lot of changes.
I've got this thing that I always work on with couples, especially like once they really get serious dating and then engage and then leading into marriage, is that every relationship is kind of like a tripod, and all of them, there's a physical relationship, an emotional relationship, and a spiritual relationship. When you're dating, you need to have the emotional relationship. So you're not a tripod, you're just pod, that's it. The issue that Christians get into is we try to open up the spiritual door, but then you're either going to break up or you're going to fall into the physical side. And because you are awakening the possibility of that third leg of the tripod to be able to come alive. And so I tell couples, if you're dating, even if you're engaged, you are not the spiritual covering. Like for the guys, you're not the spiritual covering for the girl just yet, because you are not her husband and you're definitely not her father. So her father stays the covering until he hands her off to you when you get married. And when that handoff happens, now you are the spiritual covering. And I would say I fell victim to that because I was thinking, I got to be the covering for girlfriends. And then we would mess up physically. And I'd be like, but we're trying to connect spiritually. But every time we try to get close or we went beyond emotion, we easily went into the physical.
That makes sense.
Because that spiritual component is trying to unite all three. And that's what you get when you get married. So I've kind of figured that out as we met, and so it wasn't my job to lead her. We could talk about some things, but like it wasn't our job to sit down and do Bible studies together. We were long distance too, so we really couldn't do that, which is good. There was like 6 hours in between us, which probably helped save us in some way, shape, or form. But
wait, so how did y'all communicate within those? Oh, I guess Facebook.
Facebook was alive back then, but
just phone calls.
Yeah, we used phone calls and text messages, and I guess FaceTime. Was it Skype back then?
Yeah, it probably was.
It's probably Skype. I don't even know if FaceTime was out yet.
That's true.
Sorry to interrupt.
I don't think so.
You're good.
I think most people just use Skype.
Right. Yeah, I think Skype was the winner. So, but yeah, we just talked, and then I would go visit her. She'd come visit me. And then once we got engaged, she moved to Virginia Beach. And then once we got married, we moved in together. But yeah, I would say, especially in the spiritual aspect of things, like you need to keep your relationship with God yours. Once you get married, then you need to navigate what it looks like for the two of you. But I still have my quiet time with God. She still has hers. And so, but we still can talk about things and like be able to kind of sharpen each other based on what we think. I would say most of our arguments early on, especially, was probably more theology rather than toilet paper. Which way does the toilet paper go? We would
there's only one answer.
There is only one.
What do you?
But everybody thinks that.
Your wife thinks opposite.
Right. You're an over guy, aren't you?
There's a way to put toilet paper.
Oh my
So if
goodness.
here's the wall, the toilet paper should go over the top, not
Not under.
It's
back.
easier for it to be under.
See? And that should
We're
be
about-
one of the things on your list.
Fights are about to start in every family.
Be sure to ask your person.
I hate when it's on top. Like when I'm in a public restroom and I gotta like curve in there. No, it's not it.
Go ahead and ask your lady or friend, how do you like your toilet paper?
This is one of the
Because that
foundations she
matters.
talked about on the list. You need that. Does she love God? Does he love God? Which way does
Toilet
the toilet paper
Yep.
go?
I thought
thing.
about that. I thought it was just a fact.
Oh my gosh.
No, not a fact. I do
fact.
think that the patent does show it off of the back.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that's like the original patent that like someone has like brought up. If you can put that on the screen now.
It makes more sense. I'm sorry. Like,
footnotes.
before we get into the
Footnotes.
next question, let me
Yeah,
just
yeah.
say it makes more sense for it to be at the bottom.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
But yeah,
A debate got started a few episodes ago between Wawa and Sheets, and it's still going on.
Wawa to this day.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sheets is trash.
Amen.
Straight trash. But we don't have one, so I have to go to Sheets because Wawa is like in Lancaster.
And that's what I was saying. Like,
Yeah.
since we don't have Wawas around here, it's more of a special experience.
It
right.
is. But those hoagies at Wawa,
They hit.
Thank you,
When I used
Jesus.
to live in Philly, it would be crowded at night.
Oh, yeah.
Just because, like, if everything else is closed, I'd be like, oh,
Wawa. Even if it's not
Yes.
closed,
Yeah.
I'm going to Wawa.
Yeah.
It's delicious. I miss their coffee.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, they have good drinks.
So good. Anyway,
Yeah.
back to relationships.
Back to relationships is not our relationship with food and toilet paper.
Right.
Well, here I got some.
You guys, you say
Yeah, I was gonna
something
say
before
one
I
that one thing I definitely noticed about your guys' relationship, and like when you were like first like talking, and one thing that was very important to both of you was listening to God and hearing what He has to say, and going with His guidance, like you were saying when you were in the car and you asked God like what you should do, and He said it's not wrong to just hang out with her.
Yeah.
So and then you followed that, and it then eventually blossomed to what it is now.
Right.
So I think listening to what God says about like possible relationships is extremely important.
Huge.
Yes. And even asking like your parents and things like that. Like I even called my mom and asked like, do you think it's wrong to hang out with this guy? You know, like I'm dating somebody. Is this wrong? And she was like, no, I don't see any problem. Like going to dinner with your aunt, uncle, and this guy, like you're just getting to know him. Just ask him about, you know, like his album process and just the things that you guys are both interested in. And so knowing like the covering was there, like asking, you know, even friends, like, what is your perspective on this? And allowing people to speak into your relationship is huge.
I asked my mom, I was like, is this okay? She's dating somebody. I don't want to do that. And my mom goes, most girls won't leave a relationship until they find one. And I just went, Mom.
Find someone better.
Until they
something
find
like
someone
that.
better. And I was like, Mom, you can't say that. And she goes,
It's true.
I mean, and then like the next day.
right.
So,
Yeah, I know. So I'm not saying go for anybody. If they're married, it's, you know, game's over.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if they're dating, I'm not saying like try to be cutthroat, but it's not over till it's over.
just samurai in. Just
Right.
It's not over
Yeah.
till it's
Yeah.
over.
Cut off his head, take the girl,
And run.
and run, and try not to get your head chopped off by the
Sounds like
next guy.
David, King
Right.
David.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't Bathsheba thing.
Oh, no.
Let's not do that.
Right.
Don't do that.
But I think it's funny how like God worked through that. Like when you think about dating relationships, if I was in one of your shoes and it's like, oh, the other person dating, I'd be like, dang, I guess I can't
right.
do this.
That
So,
sucks.
but you guys asked for God's
Yeah.
wisdom, and it will really change. Like what Sway was saying, it really changed anything. But I think it's funny because I think a lot of times, at least in church, I've had this view of relationships like, oh, it's gonna be like A, B, C,
Right.
and hearing this is obviously not A, B, C.
not.
It was
Right.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, back to A, back to C. So it's
Down
like,
to Z, back up to
yeah. So I think it just shows that kind of situational. Yeah.
It is, and I mean, and I wasn't putting myself out thinking that it was going to go anywhere. I was just thinking like, hey, we can at least talk about music. I know our aunt and uncle pretty well. Like we'll have a nice time.
Yeah.
And then it did evolve into more and more and more. But that was kind of step by step, and each step was like, okay, God, like this is getting kind of serious. Like, what do we do? So yeah, I would say keep God at the forefront of every decision you're making, and then be smart. You know, don't put yourself into risky situations just for the sake of it. Like, If God says don't.
Yeah.
So we'll just stick to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So wait, do you?
Nope, I'm good.
You're a little silent this episode.
No, I just rambled.
Yeah, but that was like a short
What do you
ramble.
mean?
But that was a short ramble. So I'm like, you good, homie.
I've been over here laughing with Caleb. I'm having fun.
We're having a good time.
Yeah, I'm having a great time.
So we're gonna flash back to before, like y'all were a thing, you know, exclusive and whatnot. Was there ever for any of you like a fear of being in a relationship or a marriage? Because I know some people struggle with that. I struggle with that. So that's just see where that leads to. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if there's a fear of being in a relationship, it's probably because you've seen it done wrong. And, you know, if you've seen a healthy marriage dynamic between your parents, then you long for that. And you're excited for that. And that's all you want to do is like, oh, I can't wait for marriage, because you see what they have and you long for it. And that doesn't have to be just parents. It could be like, you know, two people that you see like youth leaders or something, and you're like, oh my gosh, what they have, I want. And so it sparks something in you to desire something that you don't currently have. But if it's like, I grew up in a household where my parents were fighting all the time, or my parents got divorced, or, you know, it was chaotic and I really didn't have a good time watching them, then it puts this fear inside of you. And maybe sometimes it's even subconscious where you don't even know it's there, but it's there. And there becomes this fear. And it can even show up as like just disgust towards guys. Like if they even look or resemble like the characteristics that you saw in your dad when he was a certain way, then it's like, oh, I don't even get away from me, because that reminds me of the dysfunction in my home, and I don't want that. And I think that can actually be used as a good thing to let you know, yeah, that's not what I want. That type of person is not what I'm looking for. But to say that marriage in general or a relationship in general is bad because you're afraid that it's going to repeat is a fear that has to be dealt with, because God wants to redeem, you know, that situation and heal you from the hurt and the pain that you experienced in your childhood, so that you don't repeat the same mistakes as your parents.
Yeah.
So I can say I never had a fear of relationship. I was always and I think both of us, like since kindergarten, were like, all right, where is he or she? You know, like our parents always tell us, you know, he was girl crazy, I was boy crazy, and we were like all about relationships.
I came home, I guess I was 5. And I was like, Mom, when I get married, we're going to move in so you can make us pancakes in the morning.
Nice.
Like I was
5 years old.
At 5 years old, like I was already thinking like,
Oh yeah.
You like,
yeah, my mom was like, you're moving out. And I was like, you making pancakes for us every morning, because that's life. I'm married with pancakes.
the demand.
But I think, so I think there is the fear of like not wanting to repeat something. There's also the fear of I don't want to fail if like someone has set the standard of what it should be. And so like this is a huge issue with culture right now because of social media, because of our phones. We have lost the ability to interact with each other. And so it's so much easier if I can text you, if I can message you, if I can DM you.
Rather than being face to face.
Rather than being face to face, because, oh no, I'm anxious or I'm awkward. No, it is awkward. And there is a level of anxiety. But my definition of anxiety growing up was I was like nervously excited about something. Now anxiety has turned into like this crippling, like I'm so stuck in myself, I can't do anything. So I don't know where that flip happened. I will probably easily blame social media over it, because we can say something and forget it. And, you know, I can delete you, I can delete my comment. None of it has to be real. Dating is a risk, you know? And so I think if we're scared of failing, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, even though we had a, you know, rom-com dating situation that happened, even during dating, we fought. Even during engagement, we fought. And during marriage, we fight. And sometimes it's not pretty. And sometimes it is a more fair version of fighting. But that comes from our pasts of how we were communicated with growing up, whether that was family, whether that was friends or teachers or whoever. And if there's still pain inside, I try to hide my pain either through avoiding or through fighting or through, you know, rejecting the person, rejecting myself. And so I think there is true, like what Bethany's saying is right. It's a fear of ... It's a fear of rejection. It's a fear of not being perfect. It's a fear of performance. And relationships is literally saying, hey, I'm going to put myself on the line for you, hoping that you put yourself on the line for me, and we figure this thing out.
Yeah.
There's no part of it that is perfect. Now, there are lines that can get crossed of being abusive and being, a monster. And, unfortunately that stuff happens. Yeah. I would say even with couples that I've met with over the course of, doing ministry and stuff like that, if there is monstrous behavior, it's probably because something happened to them and they're just they're in the repeat.
Yeah.
And so they're repeating what they were told. And so that's what they're doing. And so, being a generational breaker for a family to choose, I'm going to get healing over something. I would say if you guys are, wanting to get married one day, it's probably worth getting a little bit of counseling or getting some kind of like spiritual counseling to say, hey, like, can I get some things within me dealt with? Because you don't want to take it out on your partner.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and we didn't know about spiritual counseling. We didn't know about even counseling in general. And so we've had to work through things, and we're working through things now. And it's never easy to own, this is the part that I play. But every relationship has dysfunction. It's just if we allow the dysfunction to rule the relationship, or if we try to heal so that it no longer rules. You can maybe define parts of it, but it should never be in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
And that's what I think our culture, we're so scared of being found for what we're not that we'll never put it out there anymore. And so, like, I can play the part you need me to play on social.
Because we fear rejection.
Yeah.
So why risk it now?
And I'll be what you need me to be, but I will never get to be me.
Yeah.
It's so unfulfilling.
So unfulfilling. And that's, if we can actually be accepted for who we are, I mean, that is identity. That's a big part of our ministry, is focusing on identity. But in a relationship, if I can't be the real me, if you accept the fake me, it's still empty. It's still not satisfying. And that's why you have so many kids so broken, because they're trying to play the part that everybody wants them to play, rather than actually being okay with being themselves. But I might get made fun of. We might get made fun of for playing the fake person too. So why not get made fun of at least for what you really believe, what you really want to be?
Yeah, that was definitely me in the past, and I've spoke to that in past episodes too, saying that I used to wear like a mask and be what other people wanted me to be, and just like tell jokes and just be exactly what other people wanted me to be and be what people liked at the time. And then if something like changed, I would change myself to fit it, and found myself in just completely empty. And then I ended up here. So
right. And I think we all go through that season. I call it the chameleon season. You just try to blend in. At some point though, you have to figure out who you really are when nothing's around you. And so that's the wilderness, we all like are terrified of that season. But Old Testament, Israel comes out of Egypt into the wilderness. There's a terrifying verse in there that God brings them to the edge. Moses sends the spies. The 10 come back with the bad report. And God says, for fear that if they would go into that promised land, war and lose, and want to go back to Egypt, I'll take them into the wilderness instead. That's it's a good verse because he's protecting them. He knows exactly where they're at. He knows exactly what they need. But it's like they could have had it. But he knew that there was fear in their heart. Because even though they were free, they were still slaves on the inside. All they knew was slavery. And so a generation had to die in the wilderness before they could go in and take it. And so I think that there's a part of all of us that if we really want to step into who we are without the mask, we have to step into that wilderness season. It'll be lonely. Before I met Bethany, I had like 2 years of loneliness where I still was dating a few people, but like all my friends were at college. I came home because I got mono for like the second time. And so like I was just home living at my parents' house, and I would do a little bit of ministry. I would work, and then I would just sit at home, play guitar, and write songs all night. And it was a beautiful season because it built who I am. But I would not wish that season on anybody. It was so lonely. But the lonely season is what kills off the old. So that the new can come out and take the promised land.
Absolutely.
So I think everybody needs that before they really date, before they really get married. And if you're married or you're dating and you haven't had that, you don't have to break up to find it, but you have to go through it and let yourself go through like, what does this really mean for me?
It's like, what does the chameleon blend into if there's nothing there? They have to learn how to show their own colors.
Okay.
That's so good.
All right. Yeah.
the
no,
mic.
true. I
Thank you for calling into this podcast. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
That is the end of the Gen Free podcast.
Wait a second.
Oh,
We are
swear.
done.
He's preaching.
I know. I didn't expect that to come out of your mouth. I said,
And here you said that I'm not talking today.
well,
There we go.
You dropped.
Stop to hit it again to stop it.
Yeah.
It just keeps going.
Keeps going for the
whole
rest of the episode.
every single statement.
Chameleons.
Yeah.
I need a second because he dropped that.
He did.
No,
I love
because
it.
Might as well
got a little
change-
convicted. I
Might
said,
as well change it to Faith Like Chameleons.
Oh, snap.
Oh,
Make my own brand.
Faith Like
Faith Like Chameleons.
oh my goodness, or like show your true colors. You don't have to really like,
Yeah.
I could make that a
You're
drawing.
honest. You're
We
honest.
launching. We launching.
You want to sound like a chameleon.
I like
It's
it.
time to put it on a t-shirt.
No, for real.
Somehow before the end of the episode, you have it on.
Right.
Maybe for the next
I just like
game,
draw it on right now.
I know.
Yes.
a Sharpie.
That looks so good.
I love it. Just like cover up the Nike symbol.
And you do
Exactly.
manga. It'd be like a
I do.
manga chameleon with the eyes.
Dude, but the cool thing was, all you need is a black outline and it blends into whatever's there.
Absolutely.
That's true.
That's the genius behind
True.
Goodness.
it. Game on.
I'm still processing because like when I'm sitting here and some of the stuff you're saying, when you were talking about, sorry, I can't even formulate words. I just got convicted, like because I think I like to be stuck in a lonely season. So like I feel like I'm in a weird transition spot. So I've been discussing more things with like my mom and my dad about relationships, but I still, like you said, you felt you didn't really like the lonely period. I love it.
Right.
Oh, I adore it.
Right.
Keep me there. But
Yeah.
it's like, it's weird because it's like, for me, I feel like my life is like transitioning. I'm like,
Yeah.
no.
I don't want to lose
Yeah.
this.
That's exactly how I feel. I don't want to lose this.
I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think I wanted to at the end of that season, like right before we met. I don't think I wanted to lose it because there is such like a beauty to it once
Yeah.
that you learn by being in it. When you go into it, you hate it, but by coming out of it, you realize that it was super healthy for you. And then there are things that I miss about being single, just in the fact of like I'm a selfish human being who I would like to either sleep in or go to bed late or do what I want to do. But getting married is there's sacrifices entailed with us, not me, but us. And then you have kids. And then now you're really selfish because you don't want to clean up the poop. You don't want to clean up the nasty. You just want to be able to, do what you want to do. But then they are seeking your attention. So there is beauty to the lonely season once you've been in it long enough to learn something. I think if you're happy with it, you're probably at the beginning of transition.
Yeah.
Because you finally found yourself and now you're ready to step out, which is good. But that's a sacrifice.
Change the subject. Oh, no. No. Don't say that. Don't tell me that. I'll ponder it later. But you did mention kids because kid brings
Yes.
a whole new aspect to a marriage and to a relationship. So real quick, because we only have a few more minutes left because we're at 41 minutes.
Oh,
so we
man.
can't skip
That's
that. How do you guys maintain your like godly union amongst the chaos with little kids?
We'll let you know in a couple years.
Still figuring it out?
Still trying to figure that
be
one
determined.
out. TBD. So our kids go to bed really well. Well, usually go to bed really well.
It's a blessing.
It is a blessing. Like even when they were like 1 and 2, like they went to bed at like 6:30 or 7 and slept till like 7 or 8. So I mean, like people were like, "Are you guys okay?" Our kids were great sleepers. That's not the case for everybody, but we've been able to always have time for each other because of that. But then there's also the beauty of like bringing your kids along for the journey of like, hey, let's all go get ice cream. Let's all go out to eat. Let's all, like it is a new season. And so if you're just sad about the fact that you're no longer just the two of us and being able to date whenever you want to, that's a beautiful season. But if you grieve that, you'll get angry at your kids because they're robbing you from that. Versus going, hey, this is a new season. We have our kids. And guess what? And for us, 14 years, they won't want to be here anymore. They'll be out doing their own thing. We'll wish that we had them.
Yeah.
So why not walk that out now? So yeah, it's a tension. It's not easy, but when they go to bed, you've still got some time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I feel like when you were talking about the contentment with the season you're in, I feel like I was, so content before having kids that it was almost a little too content. And I felt like the Lord said, you can stay here as long as you want, But if you want to grow, like you are going to tap out here in your growth. So if you want to not enter, a covenant relationship, that's fine. Singleness, is something that, marriage isn't guaranteed for every single person on earth. But if you want to grow in a way that you never have before, covenant relationship is the way to do it. And then same with kids. It's like I can tap out now and be content. But if I'm ready to grow in a way that I've never experienced before, then parenthood is an invitation to do that. And so
it's a pruning for sure.
Yeah.
Even Jesus says in John 15, he says the tree that doesn't produce fruit is pruned and burned, but the tree that does is pruned as well. Like we always miss that the tree that bears fruit, if you want to bear more fruit, you have to be cut back so that you can continue to grow and bear more.
And that's how botany works too.
That's straight up botany right there.
Yeah.
Welcome to botany class, everybody. No, but that's the truth. And so both things have to be cut. It's either being cut because it's dead or it's cut because it's living.
Yeah.
And so it's not comfortable to be pruned back. But if you're at the point where you've got all this fruit and that's beautiful, if you came in with that same harvest or greater next year without growth, break the branch.
Yeah.
And so you actually have to be pruned so that you can grow bigger and be able to carry more.
Yeah.
And then that's just life. There's some lie in high school that says you will one day arrive and you'll never have to try again. It's a myth.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to break the glass ceiling on that, but but it's a myth. You are continuing to grow and change every day, every week, every month, every year of your life.
Yeah. Up
to the point where there's still people that I know, grandparents and friends that are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s that they're like, I'm still learning and God's still teaching me things. I'm like, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
But that's because they haven't given up. The people who think they have it all, they gave up and said, this is all I know and this is all I can know.
Yeah.
The people who want to stay hungry, they will take every new challenge and run with it.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but it's worth it.
Yeah, and I just want to go back real quick to going back to the whole, what are you looking for in a person? I remember in 8th grade, my Bible teacher told me, you have permission to say to the person that is wanting to date you, I'm waiting for the one who's waiting for me. And so I remember getting to this relationship and the guy was like, I just feel like God told me to tell you and be honest with you that I'm not a virgin. And I was like, oh, why? No, because I was waiting for the person who was waiting for me. And I was ready. That was ingrained in me. And I was at this crossroads of okay, do I tell him sorry, I'm waiting for the one who's waiting for me? And when I was about to say that, I was like, but God gives grace, so I'll give grace too. And I forgave, and I entered that relationship, and then boom, next thing you know, I am in a relationship where now I'm in the same boat and virginity gone. And so I feel so that relationship became something that it was never intended to be. Then whenever I get filled with the Holy Spirit, 5 years later, he tells me, you can talk to my grandma about that, but I think that's demonic and I don't want to talk about it. So don't mention it to me again. Oh. So there were so many things that were going on in that relationship that were kind of cutting the threads. And I was realizing I'm going this way towards the Lord for the rest of my life. I have made that. And you are going the opposite route here. And so for me, whenever I kind of was in this discontentment of I'm staying in this relationship because I've been here for so long, but I'm not sure I ever was supposed to be in this, And so whenever I met Caleb, it was easy to just be what am I doing with this guy? I shouldn't even be here with him, And so with that, I feel it's so important to know your value system and stick to it. But if you don't, which half of us don't, we end up screwing up, we end up falling short, we end up crossing the line, we end up saying, yes to the Lord, and then no to him the next day, and it's this war. But ultimately, you look up at the end and you realize, like, wow, even when I totally screwed it up and messed up in every single way and went the opposite way of the Lord that the Lord told me to go, he ends up redeeming it all and using it for his glory. And so you can do it all wrong. Right. You can go your own way. You can choose to do whatever you want to do. And because he's so freaking amazing, he will literally take your story and somehow make it holy and give you a gift that you didn't even realize that you were worthy of, because you always thought you were worthy of this. And he's like, no, actually, this is what I wanted to give you the whole time. And I'm still going to give it to you, even though you messed it up.
Yeah.
And disclaimer, whether it's the big it or the other little tinier its, if you cross the line, you still have lost like the purity, which is what virginity stands for. So that's part 2 of this series that we'll have to do another time.
Dude, I'm so down.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You got the V car.
That's just the name of the episode. Boom.
Boom. Except for we actually never talk about it.
No, we just don't talk about it.
We just never talk about it.
We talk about noodles.
Right. Right.
Nah.
Yeah.
No, that's how we have to refer to it. It's just it.
That's it.
Yes.
It. Just like quotation.
Well, I mean,
that's for another time.
Another time.
Another time.
Well, I mean, what you were talking about like the amount of time you've been in the relationship, then stepping out of it, the amount of time that you've been being wrong doesn't mean that you have to continue being wrong.
Right.
So
That's so good. That
Man,
is the truth.
man, I'm dropping bombs.
You are.
He really
He
is.
takes all the material and just goes,
Boom.
Yeah.
Like, it's just unexpected. You really be going me off guard. I'm like, oh, Sawyer, walking with the Lord. I see you.
See, this is without
Dude, I've been
noodles.
doing, yeah, I know. Man, maybe I need to
Give it
stop
a try.
eating buttered noodles.
I don't know. Maybe you should just season it. Because just butter, come on.
Okay, first of all,
Chris,
that's
you want to go to
offensive.
Noodles and Company?
That is not.
There you go.
No, like, I hit it with some Old Bay.
Yeah.
Hit it with the season. Or like, I don't like the ramen broth. So, like, you get the noodles, and then you put butter, and then you put the seasoning on top. And then I add adobo, because I'm fancy.
Right. Maybe some hot sauce, you know.
Oh, yeah. Good sriracha.
Not really a hot sauce person.
Yeah, me neither.
Back up.
I'm with you.
So much to learn.
Yeah, for real. Before
Young
you can get married,
Padawan.
you have to learn.
Yeah, you gotta learn some things.
Yeah. Hot sauce. Yeah. Anyway.
Only the Sith don't use hot sauce.
You know what? Back up. Back up.
We're about to go down a dark
Yeah.
road.
And we're already at 51. So
I mean, that's fine. I think did we go over an hour with Brian?
it's Brian. That's different.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
They have worship they have to go to.
Yeah, we
and
do have to
Yeah,
stop.
that's fine.
So,
So, does anybody want to close this out in prayer? Anybody feel
Don't matter.
led?
the noodle man.
I can.
Yeah. Okay.
All right,
they
cool.
volunteered you, so Noodleman, go.
All right, cool. Dear Lord, I thank you for this time to be together, and I thank you for the possible fruit that can be gained from this podcast. And I thank you for Caleb and Bethany for coming to join us on this episode. And I also thank you for Ayana and our crew as well. And I just ask that the viewers of this episode would find it helpful and get the message that we were spewing out, Lord. And I just thank you again for this time, and we bless you, and we thank you, Lord. Praise God. Amen.
Amen. Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming on.
Yeah.
This has
Thank
been-
you so much.
It's given me perspective, and I hope our viewers learn as well. And yes, y'all, we didn't forget about you. If you haven't already, which would be kind of strange if you listen to us this much, but you know, do you follow us on? I always forget. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Am I missing something? Oh, and our Spotify, but
TikTok.
That's TikTok. I forgot about that one. But yeah, that's the end where I lose my brain
I'm
cells.
looking at you, Jeff.
Looking
Thank
at you, Jeff.
All right.
Adios.
Later.